Chapter 3: The Night Two Kids Fixed the Siemens Box. After graduation, my path didn't lead to a university. It led to a factory floor. I was assigned to the Beijing second chemical factory and trained as an electrician. It was a world of wires, switches, and circuit boards, far from the textbooks and acupuncture needles I had once dreamed of. But in those days, there was no choice. We were told, the working class will re-educate you. So I traded my school bag for a heavy toolbox. At the heart of the factory stood a towering chimney as tall as a 4-story building. Day and night, a flame burned at its top, like a sleepless torch. Thick black soot coated everything below, and every time I climbed up to repair equipment, armed with a paper mask that stopped dust about as well as a screen door holds back water. Minutes later, my face was coal black, my nostrils jammed with grit. Even the roadside trees stayed jaundiced all year, drooping, dust-plastered, like knackered old workers who could never clock out. Despite the harshness, our group of young electricians grew close. We laughed, helped one another, and built strong friendships. One of my dearest friends was Zhang Jingui, whose quick wit and warm heart could lift any mood. In those early days, I was still an apprentice. One day, one of the Siemens distribution panels we just imported had a malfunction. Senior electricians worked on it all day but couldn't get it running. Production had to stop, and worse, if certain chemical processes were interrupted too long, it could lead to toxic leaks. It wasn't just a nuisance, it was dangerous. That night, our shift took over. Our master electrician gave it one last try, then exhausted, went off to rest around midnight. My teammate, Mr. Lee K-yi, and I were still full of energy. We'd been observing the whole process and thought we had an idea of what the issue might be, so we gave it a try, and miraculously, we fixed it. When the end-of-year awards came, our little night team received one of the top prizes for solving that critical problem. The reward? A fake leather handbag, considered a luxury at the time. There were no bonuses. Typically, top performers had their names nailed to the notice board and received a flimsy certificate topped with a hand-sized red paper rosette, something you could slap together in under a minute. Then it was pinned to their chests like a kindergarten craft project. Around that time, I discovered the factory offered night classes. Few people went. Studying anything beyond political slogans was still discouraged. But I signed up anyway. On the first night, I walked into a near-empty room. One teacher, one student. She was a gentle woman with a soft voice and a kind smile. Later, I learned her secret. She had once been a professor at the prestigious Peking University. During the Cultural Revolution, she had been sent to the factory for re-education. Now, she sat under flickering factory lights, quietly teaching someone who still dared to learn. By some miracle, I had her all to myself. She taught me as if I were her only pupil, and perhaps, in that moment, I was. Her explanations were calm and crystal clear. Every question I had, she answered with grace and depth. She made ideas shine like sunlight catching glass. That's when I fell in love with learning. Not because I had to, but because it was beautiful. She taught me calculus, Weiti Fen, while chemical fumes lingered in the air and tired trees stood outside the window. In that little classroom, I began to think far beyond the machines around me. At first, no one noticed. Then, everything changed. The Cultural Revolution ended in 1976, and with its close came a whisper of hope. University entrance exams would return the following year. The factory buzzed with excitement. After 10 years of being locked out, students across the country now had one chance to re-enter higher education. The odds were brutal. Only 2 out of 1,000 would be accepted. For medicine, even fewer. Panic followed. Night classes overflowed. Students crammed shoulder to shoulder. Some nights, I couldn't even get through the door. But for many, it was too late. A decade of lost time couldn't be crammed into a few desperate months. To even sit the exam, you needed a special entry permit, one that was delivered to your workplace just 3 weeks before the test. I was studying at home when the permits arrived, far from the factory, and that's when my friend Zhang Jingui stepped in. She went out of her way to collect my permit and made sure it reached me in time, saving me hours of travel and perhaps my entire future. I'll never forget that kindness. When the exams finally came, I passed. My factory colleagues and supervisors were overjoyed, not just for me, but for what it meant. that someone from our forgotten, soot-covered corner of the world could still dream and still win. As I packed my few belongings and stepped through the factory gates for the last time, I paused. I turned back, looked at the towering chimney, the tired trees, the friends I had made, and I gave thanks. Thanks for the dust and for the wings. End of chapter 3.